every moment spent in connection, reflecting on who we are and how we've grown, the moments that are full of joy and celebration, and then those moments that challenge us and ask us to change course, pivot in a new direction, and grow and change in ways that we never anticipated. Every moment spent in connection, sharing those reflections, coming together around shared experiences, changes who we are. Because it allows us to get to know who we are, to get to know our hearts, and it allows us to form connections and community around shared passions, interests, and joy. Welcome to Lessons In, a new series from Seek the Joy podcast. Through conversations focusing on life's biggest lessons, this series will explore the joys we can find through these experiences and the connection and community we create through sharing our reflections. It's an open and honest look at the moments and lessons in our lives that impact us. Every episode features a conversation that will leave you feeling inspired, motivated, full of joy, and get you thinking about the experiences in your life and the lessons they've taught you. Lessons In, a new series from Seek the Joy podcast. Welcome back to Lessons In. Today, I'm joined by Mae Whittick, and Carol is the creator, host, and executive producer of the podcast, Her Conversations, Tools for the Awakening Woman. Her is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance, and launched in 2017, the show is a beautiful platform for the voices of powerful women from all around the world. And Carol and I first connected last year when I was on her podcast, and I'll make sure to link that episode in the show notes. She is so wonderful, and I'm so happy that she joined me this week to share a lesson that she's learned about really the beautiful and powerful connection between self-love and spirituality, and how really so much can change in our lives when we take a moment to acknowledge, appreciate, and celebrate our own inner growth and self-love. We talk about the growth that came from her experiences with self-love and spirituality over the last year, and the joy that she's really found in the journey. Carol's reflections, honesty, and vulnerability will leave you feeling inspired and remind you that we can truly nourish the deepest parts of who we are if only we give ourselves the chance. To learn more about Carol, this week's new episode, and our series Lessons In, head on over to the website seekthejoypodcast.com. Everything is right there. I'm really excited to share this week's new episode with you guys. So without further ado, let's dive in to Lessons in Self-Love and Spirituality with Mae Whittick. There is such a beautiful connection between self-love and spirituality, and I have found for myself that as I dive into my own self-love and dive into my own spirituality, they both shift and change. I think both as a result of personal experiences, but also I think experiences and things that are sort of happening, I guess, maybe on the world stage. And I think, too, as we begin to nurture our self-love more, our spirituality begins to nourish and grow and flourish, too. And they work sort of hand in hand. So I'd love to know from you, what has your experience been, this connection between self-love and spirituality?
Just such a good question, so timely for me as well. And the first thing that I really had to understand was, what does self-love mean? Because, you see all these phrases and hashtags and it kind of, I think sometimes gets a little bit meshed up with like candles and nice baths and cool music and staying, that namaste kind of feel thing. And, which is nice. You need to do you need to take care of yourself on a physical level. But I really personally started to know what the definition meant to me anyway, in a much deeper way, I'd say, over the past 6 months of my life, where I had to just literally take a pause on everything. I had to really slow down, or actually just stop the rate at which I was producing the podcast, and I had to say goodbye in a way. I had to grieve certain relationships and that were toxic, basically. But what then started to come to light was, I don't know, an awareness started to wake up with me when I'd kind of have interactions. And as I was really digging into the work of what I wanted the podcast and everything around that to be, I realized that I wasn't getting any acknowledgement. Is not everything that you do is going to be for everyone, particularly when, but what it was just almost in some certain ways, it was like a complete disregard that any of it existed, and a complete disregard for me as a person, and things that I hadn't fully taken on board yet. And what started to really crop up for me is in situations with those people, it'd be like, this doesn't feel good. This isn't, I come away from those things feeling more and more wretched, more and more, why am I playing small in this? Mm-hmm. In the end, my hand got forced. I'm like, because if I stay in these relationships or connected to these people, I'm just going to have to hide more and more of what my ambition is for the world. And I can't do the two. I'd gone as far as I possibly could, hiding, and I wanted to go further. And yet, in order to maintain those relationships, I had to let them go. And then it floored me in a way that I was not expecting. And it meant that I had to sit down and really grieve not only the relationships, what I thought the relationships were going to be. I also had to really look at myself and appreciate that, and be honest and see that I had forsaken myself for kind of familiarity, but the familiarity wasn't serving me. So what the self-love meant was that I needed to actually sit down and take stock of all the things that I had achieved in my life, the things that I'd created. And, maybe it wasn't setting the world on fire, or maybe I wasn't Oprah, or whatever it was, all the things that people kind of snidely say back to you, or like, oh, I've not heard of that. Or and you're like, but I know how much work I've put in to make that thing happen. And I might have a small audience of people who actually enjoy what I do. And the amount of people that I've spoken to over the years that have wanted to put out podcasts or write books or do music, who have never done it, because the minute they look at how much work it is, it's overwhelming. So I need to really start respecting the fact that I got into it and got on with it and was consistent and just kept going and kept going and kept going. And then, but I'd still allow really, voices of people that had no knowledge of what I was doing, and felt that it was their duty to give me constructive criticism. And one of the things I learned out of that is I will never take constructive criticism from people who have not constructed anything. Yeah,
if you're not in the arena, you're not here with me putting in the work. It was so interesting how your self-love journey became a self-acknowledgement journey, really recognizing who you are, what you've done, how much work you put into something, and the way that it makes you feel. I think we can get lost often in the output and what it looks like and how many people, are looking at it or listening to it. But at the end of the day, it comes back to how what you're creating makes you feel and the impact that it's having, on your life.
Yeah. And I think that's, if you think of any good relationship that you have, it's always when you actually know something completely inside out. The things that really makes that person tick. You know how hard they work, their dreams, and you support them. And I realized I wasn't being that to myself. So that's what self-love was like. I have to turn around and literally face myself and acknowledge myself and go, you've done all of this. This is amazing. I'm just let's bow down and just give you a total amount of props. That's what self-love was. So I had to 100% do that. And then, and this kind of trickled out into what I was doing in terms of what my spiritual practice was as well. And during that time, and it was, I'm still trying to work out what the words are for it, a kind of a real separation of, I don't know, self or anything. I don't know what people call it. I've never had a feeling like that. Things got to the point where I'm like, do you know what? We have to just focus on getting on with today. It's literally, okay, this is what we need to do to kind of get the body through the day. We get up, we do this, we eat, we do that, we do, and just pulling it all the way back to all of those kind of things. And then I had a little bit of guilt about the fact that I wasn't practicing as much as I used to, and I was missing lectures and I wasn't listening to certain things. And when I started to really just kind of like try and tune back into mantra, it wasn't touching the sides at all. It was just like, I'm like, why am I feeling like agitated by it? Why am I feeling taunted by it? This isn't working for me. And the only thing that really got me through that time was going back to listen to gospel music, real gospel singers. And I remember speaking to a friend of mine who, she was going through a similar thing, and she'd said to me that it was a quote or something that Marianne Williamson had said is, when we go through the deepest times, we actually go back to praying the way that we did when we were children. And I come from the church, that's my background. And it was only in listening to that music I felt the person who was singing it, the emotion and the way that it touched me, like the music, the chords, the connection that the singer had with the song, and the way that it was usually female singers that I'd listened to more so, the way that they were expressing their pain and also their optimism and their faith in God, the way that they did that, that's what got me through. That's what literally just kept me going. And then when I started to try and still go back to other practices, I was like in it, but not, it was like, yeah, this is cool. But it felt a lot of the time for me that it felt like there was a lot of bypassing going on. It's like, we can't just always skip over the pain. Sometimes you've got to sit in it and really examine what it is being brought up, trying to just kind of blast it away with all the tools and the trick. Is sometimes that's not really authentic. You can't just skip over things and pretend things are not happening. And then what's really interesting now is, because as with so many different spiritual communities, so many secrets and things are coming to light, because we're in that age now where all the awful things that have been suppressed and pushed to a side and ignored over the years have actually kind of brought themselves to light in all forms of narcissism in a way. Because if I look at all the things that have like been extracted from my life, have all been very narcissistic relation and codependent relations on my part. And that's what's happened in this period of time. Family or friendships or spiritual relationships that had like a codependency and narcissistic and codependency level to them have just been blown out of the water.
Thank you for everything that you just shared. I mean, you've been on such a journey. You've been on such a journey for the last 6 to 9 months. And I think it was almost sounds like you had to make a return to the basics in your life, make a return from practicing Kundalini, the way that you were before, to stripping all of that away, returning to the basics, and really just listening to gospel music, to what you grew up with. The same thing with your self-love journey, which I think goes hand in hand, peeling away the layers, what was going on, the frustration, the pain, to back to the basics of, I am here to acknowledge me. I am here to honor and to love me. And it's fascinating, like when we make that choice to return to those basics, we acknowledge our pain, we sit in the pain, and then you move through it. Do you feel like now you've moved through it? Are you still moving through it? What is this journey like where you are at right now?
I think something that with healing, you never really know where you are. You don't know how long the road is. Like grief, you don't know how long the road is, because there will always be, something will bubble up for a moment. But I do believe like the depths of where I had to sit and lie and be and examine, those parts are over for now. And I'm coming out the other side going, right, I'm ready to relaunch now. It also made me really look at my health and what I was doing, because when I went through that time, then I started to be really disordered in my eating as well. So I had to kind of look at that and go, okay, that needs addressing, because you can do that for so long, but then it will start to have a long-term effect on your health. If you have all of these ambitions, then it's not going to happen without your health. So I needed to start to really educate myself on health, educate myself on the way that the body works. So I feel that I'm coming out of it, and I'm stripping away all the things that don't serve in a way way that's like gracefully allowing things to go, as opposed to holding things on, going, well, if I don't have this, what am I going to have? And being scared of the void and the vacuum. Actually, I'm kind of allowing things to fall away and welcoming the space now, because there's room for whatever life is organizing for me. All I knew is that I need to get back into this work and push it even more with the respect, like as if I was working for somebody else, you know. Sometimes you work harder for other people than you do for yourself, you know, and just really push it forward and have a bigger vision of what it can be, and just put all my might into it, as well as working on myself, and just see what can happen. So that's kind of where I'm at.
I love it. I mean, it's amazing. I love what you said, that with healing, we never really know where we're at within that journey, but you do start to notice things shift. You feel a desire to return to what you were doing before and maybe reinvent it or reinvent yourself. And you feel invigorated, I think, again. And I think it's interesting how joy can really play a role in that aspect of our journey too. I'd love to know what role joy has played for you. Do you find that you have more joy in your life now? Do you find that you're still working on joy? Because I think it can be really tied to that spiritual experience and to that self-love journey as well.
I think I've found I have more of a vision of what it can be. And when I was at the Women's Day event that I was at today as well, and so many people were talking about their journey, how much darkness there'd been through. We all have our story, and I was just saying we need to just reframe it, you know, of the only way we're going to know what joy is it's a relative term. You know, if we just live life on the flat line, then it's on the flat line, you know, it never goes up or down. How do you know if you're happy or sad? You're just it's just cool. It's cool. But I think I'm open to whatever joy can be, because there are so many pockets of things that I would like to feel, even from a point where I'm like, I don't know how that's going to happen sitting from here, but I all I'm doing is just going, I'd like this, and some of these are just like, you know, relationships. I'd like to move into a new place. I'd like to, you know, I've been working on getting really fit, so I know that I'm going to treat myself to something like that I just recently cut my hair, you know what I mean? It's just all this kind of transformation of going into whatever's possible, and not even knowing what it is. It's a real big space at the moment. I've always had a connection with the butterfly, and just seeing like butterflies turn up as well in times where, you know, I always just kind of be drawn to the transformation of the butterfly. And that's one of, I'm just enjoying kind of reinventing and changing and just making things different. And I think the word that carries me through, that someone actually threw it as an insult to try and break me and said, oh God, you're so resilient, you know, because they were really trying to get to me.
That's a bad thing.
Do you know what? But you know, the way that it was said was like in a way that like someone was really trying to get me, and it was just like it wasn't working for them. But I'm like, every time I see anything where that word's posted, I'm like, damn right I am, you know. And the fact that, you know, I feel like I've got the darkest time that I've ever experienced, and I'm on the other side of it. You just have this kind of, try me then, you know, like, do your absolute best, because you don't know where I've been. I haven't even like gone into the details with most of the people that I know of where I was. So, and it's not even necessary. It's just, I need to know where I was and where I came out of and what I'm going to do going forward.
Exactly.
And I won't be tried. Do you know what I mean?
No, and I think it's important to know where you were and where you're going. And if there's anyone in the world that needs to know that, it's you. And I think that's really powerful, and it's an incredible message. And I love what you said too, that you're redefining and relooking at what joy looks like for you and how you can bring it into your life, and being resilient, I think, within your self-love journey, within your spiritual practice, within your business, and within your joy. And I think that's an incredibly powerful message, I think, for so many. What has surprised you the most about this journey that you've been on, about this connection between self-love and spirituality?
I think what surprised me the most is how much I hadn't given myself credit. And I always thought that I was readily sing my praises and, you know, be proud of what I did. And it wasn't that I wasn't proud of it, but I just never gave myself the props, and then was really disappointed when other people didn't. It's like, so it's like knowing that I have to take full and total credit for everything that I do first. It's like I have to kind of go in there going, I did that, I'm doing that, I'm creating this, because I know, and you and I both know, that creating content like this on a consistent level in terms of quality, speaking to good people, and just keeping it out there and keeping it interesting takes a lot. And just because people can access it for free, or it just turns up and it doesn't look like anything, doesn't mean anything. There's a lot that goes. There's a lot of intelligence that you have to be able to create something like that. There are a lot of skills. There's a myriad of skills that you need to have in order to create that. There are people out there that have majorly successful podcasts that get millions of views, but they have 10 people doing it all for them.
Right.
So it's just like, remember that you're doing the job of X amount of people, and you're making it happen. So it's just like reminding myself exactly how many skills I have, how much vision I have, what a powerhouse and what I'm capable of, and also that I don't need to ask anybody for permission, and I don't need to, and also to honor my gut as well when things feel wrong, or when I can't make sense of things, when it just instinctively feels wrong for me to be in a situation, no matter what I thought it was going to be, to just literally just walk away and just go, I cannot be here anymore. And I've had to do that, and it's been surprising in the areas that I've had to do it most recently. And it's, you still mourn, because you're like, man, I just didn't expect this to go this way. But in order to preserve myself and what I think is my own personal integrity, I have to kind of stand on what my values are.
I so agree. And my biggest takeaway from what we've shared in this conversation is, don't underestimate yourself and believe in yourself. And when you do, it has the power to transform you. But often you have to go through that period of time where you actually did underestimate yourself, or you didn't love yourself the way that you deserve, so that you can get to the other side and really, really treasure and value who you are. And Carol, thank you so much for having this conversation with me. It's been, I think we said 9 months or so since we connected, but it feels like we picked up just where we left off. So please share where everyone can find you, connect, your amazing podcast. I mean, speaking of creations, where can everyone find you and learn more?
My Instagram handle is Kazmick, so that's CAZMICK, and I post links out to all my other social media. I'm on Facebook under Carol Mae Whittick. I'm getting my Facebook game back up again as well. So, but you can go to my website, which is carolmaewhittick.com. So that's CarolMaewhittick.com. And then you can go to Spotify, you can go to Apple Podcasts for Her Conversations.
Perfect. I'm going to include everything in the show notes. It'll be so easy for everyone to find you. And Carol, just thank you so much again. This was a lot of fun.
Perfect. Thank you.